Welcome to Animalogy, a podcast about the animal-related words and expressions we use every day and how they reflect and affect our relationship with animals. I'm Colleen Patrick-Goudreau. Today's episode is Coccyx, Please Don't Sit on the Cuckoo. Dispersed between and among our longer episodes are shorter episodes that focus on one word that has animal prints all over it. Today's word print is Coccyx. Before we get into it, don't forget to head over to animalogypodcast.com where you can add your comments and questions, and please take a couple moments to write a review of this podcast at iTunes, Stitcher, or SoundCloud. And support this podcast at patreon.com/Colleen Patrick-Goudreau. Among other swag, supporters receive transcripts of Animalogy episodes. Let's get started. A coccyx is a small triangle-shaped bone at the base of the spinal column in humans and other apes, such as gibbons, orangutans, gorillas, and chimpanzees. Representing a vestigial tail, and most commonly called the tailbone, coccyx was the name given to this part of our anatomy by ancient Greek physician Galen because of its resemblance to the beak of a cuckoo bird. The word cuckoo comes into English in about the mid-13th century from Old French cocu, meaning cuckoo, a word most likely formed as imitative of the male bird's mating cry. The English word coccyx was borrowed into the language pretty much unchanged from Latin, which borrowed its word from Greek coccux, meaning cuckoo, also most likely of imitative origin. The English word coccyx appeared in print for the first time in an anatomy book in 1615. Of course, the cuckoo bird appears in our language in many other ways, mostly as the result of bad and, in my opinion, unfair press. To call someone cuckoo is to say they're foolish, insane, or demented, and there are a number of speculations as to why we started using their name disparagingly. Truly, all undeserved. One of the theories has to do with the fact that some cuckoos lay their eggs in other birds' nests, leaving their young to be raised by an entirely different species. Sounds pretty brilliant to me, all of the fun and none of the responsibility. But at one time, no doubt someone somewhere considered this behavior odd, and the word cuckoo came to mean cray-cray. But cuckoos have been part of human culture and consciousness and literature for thousands of years. Cuckoos were one of the birds revered by Hera, the Greek goddess of women, childbirth, family, and marriage. And of course, we're most familiar with the cuckoo clock, its sound imitative of the song of the common cuckoo. The term cuckoo clock was first recorded in English in 1789 in a William Cowper poem. Cowper was an 18th century British poet who wrote some very touching poems about his pet rabbits, his pet hares. And I read them on the Memorials to Animals episode in my Food for Thought podcast, and I'll include them at animalogypodcast.com on the page for today's episode if you want to take a look. So that was William Cowper who first mentioned the term cuckoo clock, and Cooper, by the way, is spelled C-O-W-P-E-R, but pronounced Cooper. But back to cuckoos. They are really beautiful birds. They're medium-sized birds, some of whom have the most gorgeous plumage. They're mostly solitary, so you may never have seen one. They're mostly monogamous, despite their reputation for leaving their eggs all over the place. And I bet you didn't know, or maybe you did, that the roadrunner is a type of cuckoo species. Before we go, I have a bonus word for you, also related to the cuckoo, and that is the word cuckold, a pejorative name for a man whose wife is unfaithful. The first English recording of this word in print is in The Owl and the Nightingale, a 12th or 13th century Middle English poem with French influences, and indeed, it is through French that the word makes its way into English. But of course, the French word is derived from the Latin cuculus, meaning cuckoo. The allusion to the bird in this case also has to do with brood parasitism, whereby the female of some cuckoos lay their eggs in the nests of other birds. Of course, this gives the female a reputation for unfaithfulness, but it's not she who is linguistically derided for it, it's her male counterpart, who is called a cuckold, or who is said to have been cuckolded, since his female has wandered afield. And that's our word print for the day, or word prints, since you got 2 words imprinted with animals for the price of 1. As always, thank you for your support of Animalogy. Until next time, may our words reflect our compassion, and may our compassion be reflected in our actions. For the animals, this is Colleen Patrick-Goudreau. Thanks for listening to Animalogy, changing the way we talk and think about animals.